I'm Jim Collison, and live from our virtual studios around the world, or at least here in the state of Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 6, recorded on November 5th, 2020. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths themes, one theme at a time. This season based on developing teams and managers, and man, it was a good one. Today, we're wrapping up the year and looking at the 2020 theme challenges. If you're listening live, love to have you join us in our chat room. There's actually a link right above me up there to do that. I'll take you to YouTube. Video will restart. Join us in the chat room, and we'll be taking your questions live. There's a big chat room today. We're at like 95. We wanted 100. We're getting there. If you have any questions after the fact, of course, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Just open that up and search Gallup Webcast. You can see all our webcasts there. It's going to become important a little bit later here in the show. And if you're on YouTube watching us, just subscribe right now down there. It'll if you're watching live, it'll subscribe you to the live channel. If you're listening to the recorded version, it'll subscribe you to the recorded channel. We have over 30,000, Micah, who have followed us and are subscribed on our YouTube channel.
Hold on, awesome. 100. I'm watching the chat. John Sexton was the first one to claim it.
Says 90.
There's 100.
There's 100. Woohoo!
Hello,
nice
100
job.
people.
Nice job. All right, you heard her already. Micah Librant is our host today. She's a senior workplace consultant at Gallup with me. Micah, welcome back to Theme Thursday.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to be here with 100 of my closest friends.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think that number, now that we hit 100, it's going to just climb ridiculously.
Now we'll go. Best chat room on the internet.
It'll just take off. Thanks for doing that. Micah, I mentioned the subscriber numbers. So our YouTube channel, CliftonStrengths, crossed over 30,000 subscribers back in the beginning of the year. We're about 30,005, which is significant in the fact that every time we post to that channel, you get notified. You get an email or you get however you choose to be notified. And it's just a great way of keeping up. We have another significant number that we reached. I almost shed a tear on this one. We hit 1 million total downloads for the podcast. So audio only, Theme Thursday, all time, this weekend, 1 million. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you, Jim, and congratulations to everybody who's ever touched Theme Thursday, whether you're listening, sharing it with people. 1 million of anything, Jim, I have a feeling is a big deal, but you've taught me everything I know about podcasting. So how does that play out in the podcast space to have 1 million downloads?
It's not a number that many hit. And to be honest, I wasn't sure we were ever going to hit it here. I think as I went back a couple years ago, we were in the 250,000 range. You just kind of think, wow, could we hit 1 million? Could this happen? And so in the podcasting space, 1 million's a big deal. There are podcasters, there are other podcasters and other media folks who are doing, they have some episodes that have 1 million. But for what we do and for the niche we're in and for the community that we have, hey, 1 million is a big deal. I had some questions on that in social this week as people were like, okay, that's the downloads, but what about the other stuff? What about YouTube and some of those other pieces? I kind of punted. They're there. They're just harder to get. And I just have not had the time to go dig them out. Each video on YouTube does a variety. We have some that have 10 or 15 or 20,000 views. We have some that have a couple hundred views. And so it just putting that together, if I were to go back and do it again, I would have made Theme Thursday its own YouTube channel. It would have been out by itself, so to speak. I didn't. We included it with CliftonStrengths, Called to Coach. They all kind of come together. And depending on how you do social, coaches, this is an important lesson in thinking about how you do your media. Depending on what you want to do, we just have to make some decisions. So, Micah, let me say this, though. Couldn't have done this. I mean, you took over from Kurt when Kurt passed away early in this, 24 episodes in. For folks who are new, very first season of Theme Thursday, Kurt Liesfeld led those with me. We did 24 episodes and Kurt passed away. We had 10 to finish, and we got those finished with Micah and some of her team. Benjamin helped me get those coaches together. Micah didn't know, but she was interviewing for the host job while she was doing that. And we started season 2 kind of focusing on Kurt's work, right? As we talked about theme dynamics. Season 3, we talked about strengths-based leadership. We talked about, in season 4, we talked about the success. In season 5, we focused on the All 34 report. Season 6, we've been looking at teams and managers. That's been a lot of you. Like, as we think about all the prep, all the work, you wrote all the show notes, you did all the work associated with this. So yesterday you and I were talking, and I was just saying, Micah, you've really carried the kind of the intellectual, I almost said like the intellectual property of this. And you've written so much of it based on the great work that we do at Gallup. So thank you for all that hard work, and thank you for getting us to 1 million. It's pretty great.
Well, you certainly had a vision that we got to just bring to life. And I remember when we first realized everybody was going home and that virtual was going to be a big thing here in 2020, a conversation that I had with you where I was even a little bit iffy on, could we teach people virtually? Could we still, transform people's lives and teach them what we needed to teach outside of Theme Thursday, thinking about even our Gallup courses? How would we get this educational experience to managers and leaders across organizations who need it, and without missing a beat? You said, Micah, we've been doing this for years. This is more than just podcasting. This is, how do you meet people where they are and leave them different for it? So that's you over and over again. Thanks, Jim. What I want to ask, why does this matter beyond just the numbers? Like, what do you think is significant about the content of Theme Thursday hitting 1 million?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that people have engaged with it and they're coming back to it. That doesn't mean 1 million people, by the way, right? That's 1 million downloads. So that means the audio content's been downloaded 1 million times. And I think that kind of speaks to the impact of what it's doing. It's really, really important when people talk about or mention ROI on this. How do we kind of justify our return on the investment and the time that we give? I think about that in that way, and that is a measurement. But we also then kind of think through, like, when folks join the YouTube or when folks join the Facebook group, I ask them how they hear about it. And overwhelmingly now it says through the podcast or through YouTube, right? The channels we do it on. To me, that is a mark of engagement. That means people are using it, people are listening to it, people's lives are transformed. We're going to talk about this at the end of the show, but talent mindfulness came out of Theme Thursday, and I've had an overwhelming response on how people want to use that. So, Micah, for me, kind of being an influencer in this way, it really, to me, it shows a mark of engagement, and that engagement can't have, or it has to have, positive effects on what people are doing. And you and I both hear these stories. Here in a minute, we're going to go into some voicemails of some folks who left us some voicemails over the week about how these Theme Thursday challenges have done this for them. But each one of those, Micah, is a representation of the impact that it's making in the world. And that's really what we want, right? That's really what we long for as humans, is to have some kind of impact that we can walk away from this planet and say, I made a difference. And so for me, the 1 million in this case is a great indication, because it's hard to do. Like, we're making an impact, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah. And I think that if you're listening as a coach or as somebody who wants to help other people through strengths, you can take that as a sign that the energy's out there, right? The enthusiasm and hunger for understanding strengths, whether it's CliftonStrengths specifically, which this podcast is, or even just having somebody listen to you from that place of searching for potential, tuning in your ear toward, what kind of talent here can I inspire? Know that you're not alone in pioneering that idea. There is already people who are out there searching for it. And I think sometimes we don't even know what it is that we're looking for, but that's definitely something that stuck with me in 2020, especially, is just this, I would say, super increase in the desire to have conversations that focus on what's right with people. And this is giving them the skill to do that. So you can feel like you're not alone. You're not pioneering this. You're with friends now who also want to have these conversations.
Well, and let's be really, really clear. There's a big team at Gallup, Austin, who's in the chat room. I think of Mark and Roy, who do make sure the videos get done. The audio is great. The transcripts get done. In those pieces, Rocio behind the scenes, who's probably does more work than anybody, and nobody knows who she is. Micah, the work that you do, the teams that are around us, and all the folks that we've had on, the coaches in the past. So thanks to the community, who we couldn't have done 1 million ourselves, although I could have probably written a bot that would have done it 1 million times. Big thanks to the community who spent the hours downloading, listening, and then sharing. And we're excited. The good news is there's tons of material that not everybody's listened to yet. So we could easily turn that 1 million into 2 as you share this, and a great opportunity to embed this here after the voicemails. We'll talk a little bit about how to do that here starting next year. But Micah, before I get to the voicemails, anything else you'd add?
Just congratulations, not just to Jim and I and the Gallup team, but congratulations to the greatest chat room here on the internet for being involved.
Yeah, no, I do look forward to spending this time during the week with them every single week. And it's great to have them as a part of the show. We asked you to call in if you're in a part of the Facebook group, by the way, facebook.com/groups/called to coach, and said, hey, we'd love to hear how this 2020 theme challenge, these theme challenges were really just us forcing you to use more of the Theme Thursday content.
Well, people ask, like, how do I get strengths to stick? How do I really make a difference with strengths? Yeah. How many times, Jim, on our Facebook do you get asked, could somebody give me a list of organizations that use strengths? And really what they want to look for is maybe a little credibility or maybe just other ideas. Here we've got entire shelves of books worth of ideas. It's just on a podcast instead of written on a page. So this was our opportunity to say, let's go back and force ourselves to consume some of this.
Yeah. And we have a new service we're using through Podpage, which allows you to leave a 30-second voicemail. We'll be doing this again. So listen up, people. When I ask for these voicemails, I want them. I'm not just talking into the air. I want you to do them. Several of you did. And so we appreciate that. Charlotte Blair sent this message in. Have a listen to this.
Hi, Charlotte from Australia here. If I think about which talent themes I've used during these crazy times, for sure it's been positivity and futuristic. I know that things are going to get better and we just need to see what they are. And then definitely my activator, arranger, maximizer, significance, to connect the community together, help learn from each other, put on sessions where people get to see each other. That's been so great for my woo. And it's really fed my significance.
So pretty great to hear, right? As we think about, positivity and significance. Micah, would you add anything?
That was like a podcast in itself. And I just think, Charlotte is phenomenal and definitely a influencer of strengths around the globe. And I say that in an inclusive way, not like international is something different, but phenomenal work. And I can't wait to hear more.
Well, what I appreciate about Charlotte, especially lately over the last 6 months, year, she's really been helpful to me in getting coaches engaged in things. Like when I put this call out, she said, I'll do one. And then she hammered a bunch of people on Facebook to get them to do it as well. And I appreciate that because I can't carry it all, alone all the time. So Charlotte, thank you. She's been a great friend and has been very, very helpful in the community. And Charlotte, thanks.
She led with positivity, but I think what she left out, and I don't know which of the strengths she would say it is, but Charlotte has not been deterred by any challenge. And she's had her fair share of them, probably, even more than 2020 has offered. And she's just adapted, and she's been hosting these sessions around how do you show up virtually, and really used, I think, every challenge as a stepping stone. So it's been beautiful to watch.
About this time last year, I was interviewing our next guest. We'll put it that way. John Sexton, as Vibrant came in and kind of told their story on Call to Coach. But here's John.
I've definitely relied on positivity a lot lately. It's easy to think of the challenges 2020 has presented, but there's been a lot of opportunity as well. Perhaps it's no daily commute, more time with family, or the opportunity to slow down and reflect a bit. Particularly when friends and family are down, it's energizing to help reframe things to support them and lift their spirits. I think we can all use more of that energy given the unique obstacles this year has presented.
Second with positivity.
Another vote for positivity. I'm starting to realize, gosh, we could make a big difference in the world if we just give people 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Just listen.
Just listen in 30 seconds. Beverly chimed in as well. Let's play hers.
This crazy year, I have used my maximizer and positivity to navigate, create, and host Zoom Hangouts for employees. These sessions are a time for employees to come together and socialize and catch up with coworkers. It is also a time for employees to focus on the good and the strengths of one another, and at the same time, create energy and hope that we can get through this crazy time together.
Energy and hope.
You know what I'm noticing? Sometimes we talk about positivity as being inverse empathy. And instead of feeling the temperature of the room, you're setting the thermostat. We've heard positivity 3 times. And I know these people are leaders who are doing hard work. And so I'm hearing positivity as I can do this. And I know that I'm going to affect people around me, and I'm going to affect people for the better.
Yeah. I love, because the whole challenge in this, the 2020 challenge, was to really focus on these themes and then really deploy them. And so it's great to hear, Beverly says,
here's your
we did
chance
this internally, right? We used Zoom. We did this internally. We just got this thing done. One of my, and another guy who's been hanging out in our communities a lot, Justin Douglas. Here's what Justin has to say.
Hello, it's Justin in the UK speaking. What has been fascinating for me this year is to understand the interplay of my strengths. On the one hand, adaptability, ideal for difficult situations like we've faced this year. But alone, it was not enough. I needed to really dig deep on my communication and connectedness strengths to get through this year.
Again, nobody is any one theme, right? Look at the power of the whole person showing up. And that's another thing I love about themes and strengths is the opportunity to truly individualize the power that you're describing when you think about what is beautiful and consistent and true about what you can contribute. John, Justin's one of them in the chat with us every week. I first met Justin just through like reading his chats. And then I got to hear that beautiful voice, and it was like the whole thing just activated. Thank you, Justin.
I got to spend time with Justin in December of 2019, which is like 1980. That's how long ago it feels. But Justin and I spent some time together when I was in London, and it was just a real treat. So Justin, thanks for calling that in. One of the other things I love, the diversity in voices that we're hearing. And so
this is the world.
It is. It's pretty
literally.
Let's hear from Bev.
Hi, it's Bev Shipley here. I've used communication and positivity to post daily inspirational quotes on my Instagram page. I've used Woo to stay in touch with family, friends, and make lots of new ones. I've used my activator to start helping a children's home, and I've used Maximizer and Learner to improve my coaching practice. What a year it has been.
What a year it's been indeed. I think one of the things I've thought a lot about during these times is those folks that I've heard from that are thriving are giving. They're not letting this be a time of take, but they're letting it be a time of give. We've spent some time working through this idea of resiliency. We had Jim Harder on talking about social and community well-being last Friday, which was super powerful. If you haven't gone back and watched that Call to Coach, you need to. But we find great significance in giving. And I am finding, and Mike, as I talk to folks in the community, and Bev mentions it here, that she's giving, like she's spending time giving. And I think it's just really, really important. Let's wrap it with Murray. And they call him Muzz, and I should too. So Muzz, here you go.
In 2020, it's been a tough year, but my related number one strength has helped me maintain strong, authentic, deep relationships with my clients. My futuristic has also helped me focus on what's possible and moving forward through the ups and downs. As I've pivoted to online learning for my clients, my communication has certainly helped me in the way I've been able to articulate my messages and serve them. And responsibility number 5, make sure I keep serving everybody.
Maybe I need to cut these out and make something of them. Like maybe we do something like this where we get these 30-second, because the chat room is going nuts as they listen.
I am blown away. I got to sort of preview these, but I didn't hear all of them. And I'm just marinating in the realization that this is so universal. And that it's not just the variety of accents, which I also love. And it's not just that we had a melting pot in one place. These people came from time zones all around the globe. Yeah. But it's also a variety of themes. We started off thinking, oh, well, this is just going to be the influencers who show up and actually leave a voicemail. But you heard that great awareness around some strategic thinking themes, some executing themes. You heard Muzz talk about futuristic, and you heard people reference activator, if I got out there and I did it. folks, making a difference and leading through change and being brave doesn't require a certain CliftonStrengths theme. It's accessible to you. But you're not going to get there by following the way that somebody else did it. You're going to get there by understanding the tools that you have and then using them. And this episode is becoming, I think, the greatest one-pager for what do we really mean about strengths-based development that we could ever have.
Yeah. No, and I think the 30-second limit keeps it concise and keeps it valuable from a content perspective. Lisa asked, can she still call in and do these? And I think I'm going to do something with these, Mike. I hadn't planned.
Let's say yes. Let's just say yes.
Just like we hadn't planned Theme Thursday, just to be honest, we never put a plan in for Theme Thursday. Kurt said, what if we created a show where we just talked about the themes and the chat room lit up? Okay. So if you want to do this, go to Podpage, PODPAGE.com and search Call to Coach. You'll find it's not Theme Thursday. It's the Call to Coach. They're working on multiple accounts yet, but in the bottom right-hand corner is a little microphone, and you can just leave a message there. And so if you've been inspired by this and you want to come back with your 30-second, how are you leaning into this with your strengths? We'd love to hear that as well. Podpage, PODPAGE.com, search Call to Coach. If you have any questions and you can't find it, send me an email, Jim at the average. No, that's the wrong one. Jim_Collison@Gallup.com. I almost used my I say that so much on the other show.
When work and life just blend together beautifully.
Or coaching@Gallup.com is probably the way to get that done. Leave a voicemail for us. We'd love to hear how, 30 seconds. How are you leaning into this with your themes, or really anything in that 30-second?
So we want it. We also want you just to ask people and listen.
Yeah. Great
opportunity. You can give them even more than 30 seconds.
But Micah, maybe I can roll these into 30-second tidbits of something. And if people want that kind of short, like, I don't know, maybe there's something in this.
You could set it as your alarm in the morning, have a different voice every day telling you how they're using their strengths.
Yeah. No, there's something here. We'll kind of work on it in 2021. Speaking of 2021, let's spend a little bit of time kind of walking through what's coming, because that's what I promised. So first off,
hold on. Somebody in the chat asked for what we're going to do. I think it maybe was it Frank? Frank. He said, hey, talent mindfulness is a book. That's very similar to what we're doing.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. So talent mindfulness, we've actually spent about 6 months kind of working through all the iterations of it. Of what could we do? You asked, hey, can you break this out into your own thing? And I was a little resistant at first, just to be honest. I was like, no, I want you to listen to the Theme Thursdays. But I gave in, and we're going to produce Talent Mindfulness as its own podcast and as its own channel, actually learning from the lessons of Theme Thursday. It'll be its own channel on YouTube. So Mike and I sat down yesterday and actually recorded the intro and the outros for those. And then we'll be pulling season 5 and season 6, putting those together and release them weekly. That'll give us, a year and a half of weekly updates for you on that brand new podcast feed. We are going to kind of leak them out one a week over time and allow new folks to come in and kind of see it that way. You can download the audio if you want to and use that. Take it with you, make it portable, give it away. Lots of great opportunities for you to pass these things along. So you'll want
to play it in their classes or in their
Take you can just download it. Just download it and take it with you, right? That's one of those kinds of things. You don't have to be connected online or play it in any way. Lots of great opportunities for that. You'll want to stay connected with us either in our LinkedIn group, so search CliftonStrengths Train Coaches on LinkedIn, or in the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/call-to-coach. We'll be in the next couple weeks, I'll be putting all of those things out. Micah and I recorded the trailer for it yesterday, so that's going to be all set and in there, kind of introducing to what we're doing. Then we'll be releasing that going forward. Micah, and that'll start early January. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, Lisa asked if we're still going to do talent mindfulness during Theme Thursday. Should we clarify?
We'll talk about that here in just a second.
Okay.
As well. So hold that thought for just 1 second. Anything else?
Use it. We also recorded a trailer yesterday. We're going to tell you a little bit more about it. So a little bit of a teaser of our talent mindfulness channel. And don't think about it as like consuming, like you just rush through all of it. That's why we're going to drip them to you weekly. Think about it as a practice. Make it part of what you do every week.
Yeah. And Won't be recording those live. These are going back and pulling out from 5 and 6. So
that was what I was saying. We should clarify. Yeah. So these are not, new ones that are just talent mindfulness. These are pulling back what we already did, the like 100 or so of them that we did between season 5 and season 6.
Yeah,
100 is a stretch.
We've got a bunch. That'll get us through. Yeah, that'll get us. So I think I figured about 1.5 years worth of those. So those will be there. So let's talk a little bit about Theme Thursday, because we've been getting a lot of requests. What are we doing for season 7? And just don't freak out. We're not doing season 7. So we're going back. Lots of material. Giving Micah the year off, and we are going back and pulling all these shorts. So we created Theme Thursday shorts for season 1 and season 2 way back when, and then we kind of ran out of time, and we've been creating Theme Thursdays. And we didn't do the shorts for the other seasons. And so this gives us an opportunity to go back and pull valuable shorts out of those programs. The other request I've been getting a ton from you on is, I need shorter content. Can we make it any shorter? So the Theme Thursday feed, the feed that you get through the podcast app and some of those will contain those shorts. So you need to do nothing new. If you just continue to subscribe to it, every week, I'm going to put 1 or 2 new shorts available for you in that. You can download those as well. Just saying, if you want to download those and use them, you can do them as well. And we'll have some great stuff coming on social. So we're going to be taking those shorts and putting them on Instagram and putting them on LinkedIn and putting them in Facebook. You can grab them from there as well. So a lot of our time and effort will be going back on Theme Thursday and kind of rediscovering those things that you might have missed, making some shorts out of them. That will have the feed in as well. So for 2021, no live Theme Thursdays coming out. And I know some of you I got some things to cover that, so don't freak out just yet. But Micah, what else? Anything else you want to add as we think about next year on Theme Thursday?
You still have the same amount of time in next year as you had this year. So find a way to use it in a way that inspires you, just like a live podcast did. I think it gives us an opportunity to go back and really listen to the great content that we've created. This live channel, I think, has been part of the huge gift of bringing people together. It's about activating the idea of CliftonStrengths, and next year gives you the opportunity to just integrate that into the good work that you're already doing.
Micah Justin says, so no live shows between the two of us. No, that's not what we said. We're just not doing Theme Thursday. So just hang tight. There's some things going on behind the scenes, and we needed to mix some things up a little bit to kind of make
it. And I'm exhausted. I'll just say that. I fully appreciate all the love that we're hearing right now. I can't keep it up a week, every week anymore, at least not next year. We're not saying that this is a pause forever. We're just changing the game. Yeah. And that's what you have to do when you're up against a challenge. You can't think that you aren't enough. You just have to change the game. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, mixing it up a little bit. And I'm excited for this. I really am. Because the conversations will now shift as we think about what we did on Theme Thursday. The coaching conversations will now shift into these twice monthly. We're going to do these Zoom coaching community calls. Great opportunity for you. By the way, certified coaches, if you're a certified coach with us, I've asked you through the Facebook group to maybe lead and teach a 20-minute session during these. We're going to create 4 of them a month in different time zones. So 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Central Time. That covers a good chunk of the world. You can join us live and interactive. So beyond just us talking to you, there's going to be some great opportunities for you to interact with each other as well. This is something Charlotte has done very, very well. I felt like we kind of needed to do that in the coaching community. So in 2021, those will be kicking up, be available through Eventbrite, be open to the public, but certified coaches, I'm reserving the teaching spots for you. So if you want to do that, send me an email. If you've got a topic you want to cover in 20 minutes and share with the coaching community, send me an email, Jim_Collison. Jeez, it's like saying the Gallup Strength Center. I can't stop saying the wrong email address. Okay. Jim_Collison@gallup.com. And let me know what you're thinking. I'd love to get you included in those. Micah, I'm really, by the way, Austin's going to join us in those. So there's some opportunity for him to come in and give the community updates. You may show up every once in a while. I'm just saying, right?
You're not going to keep me away from live podcasting, or I mean, I have this ridiculous microphone. I've been like pulling, even when we take like a month off from the end of ending this season until we went through our challenge, and like I woke up twitching, thinking like I need to be live with Jim. I started to sneak this microphone into like regular Zoom meetings just to feel it. So I'm not going anywhere. We're just doing it at a different space, different pace.
So you'll want to follow. Oh, well, let me also say, Call to Coach is going to be amazing in 2021. So if you haven't, and that's different than Theme Thursday. For some of you, you think they're the same, but that's a little bit different. We have some amazing learning. My partner on our comms team, Andrew Bridger, and I have been working together to kind of come up with kind of some, like what we did. We tested this out in 2020. We didn't intend to, but the pandemic kind of forced us into it. It was a happy accident in a lot of ways. And so we'll have some quarterly series coming up on that. We're still going to highlight what's going on in the community. We're still going to do a Call to Coach where we interview folks on what's going on around the world and how lives are being changed through organizations and through coaching. All that's going to happen through Call to Coach. So the volume, the number of those, by the way, we did 50 of those all of last year, 50 Call to Coaches all of last year. We did 50 by June of this year. And I think next year will be probably not on the exact same pandemic pace, but pretty close, more than we did in 2019, maybe not as many as we did in 2020. But I'm excited for what's coming up on Call to Coach. So make sure you're following us on Eventbrite. Go to gallup.eventbrite.com and follow us there. You have to sign in and create an account. That follow button won't populate until you create an account. So do that. And then you'll get notification of when anything is new. The first quarter of 2021, we're going to be really kind of focusing, and we've been doing this. We've been focusing on the manager with well-being in mind. And so we have a new well-being book that's coming out in March. Very, very excited about that. So lots of great stuff around Call to Coach. Micah might show up there as well. So exciting. Micah, anything else you would Call to Coach schedule?
Friends, this is when our job really begins. You know, when the world needs us too much to keep doing the same thing the same way. Everything that we have learned, all the really strong, I think, connections we've made to each other, we have to get out there and help other people see that too. So I'm spending a lot more time on the ground with a lot of our clients. I got off a really exciting call last week where we were thinking about how do we design even just 90-minute interventions that help teach managers what well-being is and teach them how to listen to their people around it. We can go through all the 34 themes again, but the return on investment, I don't think is going to be as big as if we get out there and we have those conversations. The real workshop, the real seminar is at your kitchen tables with your roommates. It is in your boardrooms. It is on your Zoom calls. And so if you feel like you're missing a live theme Thursday, that's your cue to follow that feeling to go pick up the phone or text somebody or have a meaningful future-focused conversation about talent with the people in your real world.
Some great advice. You know, early in the year, I got some good advice from a friend who said, if you're thinking of somebody, call them. And like it that kind of changed the way, as the world kind of changed on us this year. It really kind of changed the way I approach people. And so if you're thinking of it, don't
just do it.
Yeah. Don't let that thought go too far away. Just act on it because you just don't know. Like you don't know what that's going to mean to somebody. You don't know how that
people want the connection, and if they don't, they just won't answer the phone.
Yeah. Well,
it's fine.
We have plenty of resources for you to share with them, and so take what we have given you and get out there and get that shared. I think we're gonna have a pretty great 2021 ahead. Micah, I'm kind of pumped. Now. We actually have a super strong finish to 2020. So if you haven't joined us on Eventbrite, you might want to go out there. We've got some dynamite. We got some dynamite webcasts coming from some coaches who reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're doing this kind of work here, and I'd really like to get on Call to Coach and talk about it." Let me say, coaches, or anybody listening, if you've got that incredible story and you want to pitch it to me, send me an email, Jim_Collison at Gallup.com. I got it right the first time.
You got it right.
Yeah. That's because I've been thinking about it for like the last hour. At Gallup.com. And let's talk about it.
I remember when Joanne Miller sent you an email saying, I can't get it through to James Collison because It should be your formal name. Joanne
only
thinks
my
it
mother
should be
calls
your
me
formal
James.
name.
So, Micah, anything else you'd add as we kind of wrap this up? What else would you want to say as we kind of bring Theme Thursday, at least the live version of Theme Thursday? By the way, I think it's going to be just as powerful in 2021. The Theme Thursday channels will be just as powerful as we spend a bunch of time making it in chunks that will be consumable by you in different ways. And we'll have you, we'll still have you on and do these kinds of things on a fairly regular basis. But what else would you add?
I love you and working with you, Jim, but we're not the beating heart that made Theme Thursday great.
Right.
We are not the magic. It is the people who listen, the people who share it, the people who have an aha moment in an episode and use that aha to actually do something about it. In so many ways, this podcast is a lot like the same challenge that we face with CliftonStrengths development in general, of where we stop at taking the assessment and posting our top 5, and when we think that that's somehow going to change us. But strengths identification is not the same as strengths development. Development, where you get to that kind of world-class performance, takes bravery. And that's what we have here in this chat community, in people who forward episodes. It's been amazing to see how this experience has changed the understanding of strengths coaches around the world. They show up to our courses smarter than they've ever been. About strengths and about how you can use a theme to customize your approach to a challenge, not based on what the instruction book said, but based on what your own talents inside you are telling you should do. So I hope everybody hears a very heartfelt thank you for being the living, breathing magic of what we've been able to do through this conversation.
What you said reminded me of a story. A couple years ago, we were doing some training back when we would get together and do training on the campus, and it feels like 100 years ago. And a lady came up to me with, and I forget her name now, but she'll email me and remind me it was her. She had a binder of all the season 2 and season 3 companion guides, and she'd listened to them all and filled them all out, and there were like notes everywhere. And it was pretty great to see, she's like, I brought this to training. Like, that she had used season 2 and season 3 as a kind of a prerequisite, and we might have even been in season 3 while this happened, as kind of a prerequisite to learning that's available. By the way, many of you are like, wait, there were companion guides for season 2 and season 3. I'm working on getting those put in Gallup Access right now, so that you can access them there. You've had to, right now, if you want to get them, you got to email me and I send them to you. I do ask you what you're going to do with them, because I want to hear the stories. Like, how do you plan to use this? Mm-hmm. But we will be adding them into Gallup Access, so you'll be able to get that. In 2021, actually, Theme Thursday will be moving and available in Gallup Access, so you no longer have to leave the platform. So if you're in the platform, or you're working with individuals that are in the platform, and they're in it and they want to search, they can find Call to Coach and Theme Thursday in Gallup Access. They're working on it on the schedule. I don't have it all, but it'll be coming in 2021. So we're kind of excited to have those there going forward. Final thoughts, Micah, before I wrap it?
There is something, if you're listening to this right now and you made it this far, you're up for the challenge. So go out there and have a better conversation. Stop asking people what they do for a living and start asking them what they're doing when time disappears. Yeah. Stop asking how your day was and start asking, what was the best part of your day? Where can you not wait to do tomorrow? And you heard this for a reason, so allow it to resonate and do something with it. Thanks for being here. So with that, remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available in Gallup Access. Visit gallup.com/CliftonStrengths. While you're there, sign up for the CliftonStrengths Insight newsletter. It's at a link at the bottom of the page. Actually, every page at gallup.com has that. Put your email address in, hit submit. We got some opportunities to sign up for several of the Insight newsletters. We have them available. We won't spam you, but we'll send them. For the certified coaches, a brand new newsletter is out today. So that should be in your email box right now. And you can get signed up for those as well. If you're interested in coaching or master coaching or becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. And yeah, we do certified coaches. We do have master coaching for you. So
If you're interested in doing something like that and kind of taking your coaching and get some individualized coaching from some of our best, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Join us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths. That'll get you there in most cases. And want to thank you for listening today. We'll do a little bit of a post show. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.